Welcome to Cruising Altitude, the podcast where we rise above the turbulence of life and step into the freedom, clarity, and luxury of living life at our highest level. I'm Kelly O'Shea, business development consultant, private jet advisor, investor relations specialist, author, solo mom, and living proof that you can crash into life's turbulence, pick up the pieces, and still arrive in style. Whether you're navigating business, healing, or building a life that feels limitless, this is your boarding pass to living a life you were brave enough to chase. So buckle up, we're ready for takeoff. Hi, and welcome to Cruising Altitude. This is episode 1, How to Rise After the Fall. And my guest today is Dr. Lisa Palmer. She is the founder of the Renew Center in Florida, PhD, LMFT, and CHT. Her center is ranked number 1 in the U.S. For PTSD treatment. She's a leader in mental health awareness, and she is sought after by celebrities, professionals, athletes, entrepreneurs, and high-profile clients for her expertise in tough-to-beat issues. So thank you for being here, Dr. Lisa.
Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah.
So when did you open Renew Me in Florida?
Do I dare say about 2 decades ago.
Wow. Because I know you're a New England girl like me. So
I am.
You came down here that long ago. Okay.
So it's been a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, very grateful for that. Yeah.
Awesome. So, and what was the path that led you down here and led you to your specialty?
I'm always asked this question. So the long story short, and you know that's always going to be a long story, but I'm really going to try to make it short, is I started out in pre-med and found myself competing at the Miss USA pageant. And then I decided to change it to journalism. So I got a degree in journalism and was sort of going down that path. And then I was writing a lot of like negative stories. And I was like, this is not me. I want to live like more of a purposeful life. So then I took a break from that. And then I was like, maybe I should write a book. And I started writing this book, something similar, not similar to yours, but like something that had to do with my life. And I was like, you know what, maybe I need some degrees for people to take me seriously. So, and I wanted to make a difference. So I went back and I got my master's degree and then my doctorate. And then I just got on that path. And then later on just started doing television again, national, international news and whatnot. And now I'm doing podcasts. So here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I started the Renew Center after, I had a lot of experience working in inpatient treatment centers and had my own program at a hospital. And I really wanted to establish a program where people could get results while they lived in their reality-based setting. And I did see that while I really had a specialty in eating disorders, I saw that a lot of people had issues with trauma. And if the trauma wasn't resolved, you really couldn't just handle treating the symptoms, right? So you really had to get to the root of that. And I'm also a specialist in hypnosis and have some special techniques for working with memories and reprogramming those memories. So it's been very effective for people, and have 60 to 90-day programs and just been doing it for a while.
That's interesting. And what are the average age of your clients? I know you can't talk about your clients too much. But.
Yeah, no, they I would say in their 30s, to be honest with you. But really across the board from about 15 to the 50s, sometimes older than that, but mostly within the 30s and 40s range, I would say. Yeah,
that's good. It's interesting because I think that it would have done me a huge service if my parents had put us in therapy when we were young, but they never did. So, kudos to the parents that are putting 15-year-olds in therapy with you.
But I think that during that period of time, therapy wasn't as accepted as it is now.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot more of a stigma. I mean, I'm from the Northeast, you're from the Northeast. And there were a lot of kids during those days, and even still now, that have problems. But now I find that parents have a lot more of an open mind to say, okay, let's put them in therapy or coaching or something. And they see the value of it more, where I think that when you and I were that age, it was like our parents were like, figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we were just left to, our journals and our own resources, which I think that for me, and I, reading your book and everything, a lot of people have gone through bullying, shame, feeling unsafe. All of these things have an impact on our brains, especially if they're happening to us from a very young age. But when you have a child who doesn't really know how to nurture their own emotions and process all of that, and you have parents that might be like, okay, figure it out, then all you have is really yourself, your notebook, your friends, if you have friends, it can definitely, or your spirituality, if you have that. So
yeah, I was impressed listening to your last podcast to hear that you found that at a young age. And it's impressive because you're very beautiful and, we're close to the same age. So the pressures of being, for me, I really wanted to be popular. So I wanted all the nice things. And it took me until this past 2 years of being quite humbled and checking my ego to really lose that materialistic side of me. So really kudos to you for figuring that out at 15.
Well, I think a lot of people, go through that and they think, the more I have, the more that I am. And they identify themselves with the things that they have, material, the labels. Am I a doctor? Am I a lawyer? Am I a real estate agent? Or what do I have? And a lot of that is part of the ego mind. Right. And when we're associating ourselves with that kind of an identity, we become slaves to it. Right? And really, when you're going to heal, you realize, even though there was a part of me that created all that, that is not all of me. Right. I am not my clothes, and I am not these different identifiers in my life, that there's something deeper within us that we have to tap into, and that's our being.
Right.
And I think you go into that and finding your light, in the book.
Yeah, and similar to what you said on your last podcast, I do believe that we are stars and we are in skins for each lifetime, right? So we're souls in a body. This is my body. And, I'm just now learning as a woman, and because I was such a people pleaser for so long and I was chasing and proving for so long, the importance of nurturing myself. And that's part of, becoming a queen, right? And nurturing your vessel and all that. And how important that is because, as you read, that my first cry for help was the eating disorder. And a lot of that stuff, it does stick with you. There'll be days where it's I have so much to do, I'm just not going to eat. And who am I benefiting?
And the thing is, I think it's what's important for a lot of people to note is that eating disorders are not about eating. That's part of it, right? It's really about how the person is trying to, maladaptively cope with a bunch of different things that are going on in their life. And it's not just your circumstances that are creating these pileups for you, but it's the lack of coping skills. It's the lack of knowing what your own needs are and being able to meet those needs. It's the lack of being able to set boundaries or being able to speak your truth. And these pileups accumulating on a daily basis that you really don't have the ability to de-escalate, right? And then you're trying to look for ways to escape. And when you have these negative programmings going on in your mind, right? Where it's more than just a negative thought. It is a negative belief. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not valued. I'm not loved. Then these different things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, your brain is creating stories, and the stories are negative, and that becomes part of the pileup. So a lot of this all accumulates in a way where you want to escape, and that addiction is that vehicle at the moment to do that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, for people who don't know, when I lost my son's father was when I said, okay, pause. I have to figure out what is wrong with me that I keep attracting these men. So I need to go back before I didn't want a revolving door of the wrong men around my son. So for the first time in my life, I had to be alone and learn to love myself. And I went back. And then it's funny you mentioned journals because when I was born, my sisters were 10 and 12 years older. So it always felt like my issues were a burden on the family. So I kept a lot of journals, and a lot of it was like, oh my gosh, like they're all screaming and yelling and all these things, and but just not being validated. And then when I found those journals, that was when I decided I have to write this book, because it's such justice for the younger version of me, who met the twin flame narcissist at 19, and that was very dangerous. For 25 years, that was dangerous. It was like he sucked the light force out of me from 19 to 44 almost. And then I realized, well, why did I chase him so much? Why did I want him so badly when there were so many guys chasing me? And I was the bubbly woman that, thank God, you see today. But it took me so long to get her back, because like it was like, not only did I got into drugs with him, I stopped going to school. I mean, it was a massive plummet. And then even from afar, it's like he could still control me by just 2 years ago being in a relationship and wanting to get out of it, because I had the potential of him coming. Like that was going to be the biggest prize, until I realized this isn't a prize. He told me what he's like in his day to day, and I was like, I don't want that. But anyway, and so going back before that, why was I so broken when I found him? Okay, what was happening in the home? And then it's like, wait, my sister was the same way with the eating disorder at 17, and then even younger, 14, trying to kill herself. So what was going on then? And I struggled to say abuse, because I was not hit, and it doesn't look like neglect, because I got everything. Even my sisters didn't, you know.
But you had a lot of chaos in the home, and you talk about that, and you didn't feel safe. You did talk in your book about how your protectors were gone.
Right.
And that happened a couple of times in different instances in your book. And I think that safety is a really key word, because as a young age, if you don't have a foundation of safety, it would be like us trying to do this podcast with the earth shaking beneath us. You can't do much else. You can't progress. It's such a foundation of who we are to have that safety, that's a part of your wounded self that you had to reclaim back.
Right.
So safety, I do find for a lot of the patients that I work with that have trauma, they do have had in the past issues where they didn't feel safe and protected. They also, a lot of them have issues where they didn't feel heard and understood. The theme, right? There's themes of feeling shame or humiliation, and whether that be with bullying or in their family of origin, or it could be something that happened to them where they were in class and they had to do a speech and they felt shamed, right? It's just, there's different instances of feeling shame, but that definitely is also a theme. And we've got to go back to heal the conflict that we end up having with ourselves.
Right.
You know, you talk about people pleasing, and I think that's a really important topic, because a lot of people who people please think that they're doing this wonderful thing for other people. And it's really not altruistic when you're people pleasing to heal yourself.
Right.
And a lot of people pleasers are really, I'm sure they're great people, but they're coming from a place of, I'm trying to heal something within myself by doing something good for you. And then what happens is they end up getting burnt out.
Right.
And then what that does is it's contributing to the negative belief systems that they're trying to correct within themselves. So they started out feeling not good enough, and now they're doing all of these things to get this validation from somebody else, and then they're burning themselves out, which is creating this vicious cycle. And the biggest problem for people who are people pleasers is that they can't accept the compliment. It's within them, right?
Yeah.
So that's where part of the brain programming comes into, because you could do all the people pleasing you want, but it's like, if you can't accept the compliments for you, that is some type of truth within you, then it's all in vain.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that, because that's why I look back and I realize how important women like Casey were. Casey, you meet in the second chapter. She was, I met her in the dorms in college. So right before I got anorexic and during, she was there. And I remember changing, and she walked in on me and she started crying because she could just see the bones. And she was so sad, and she was like, I just wish you could see what I see, like this beautiful, vibrant, smart woman, but I didn't see that at all. I felt horrible about myself. I didn't feel worthy of her friendship or anything. It was so bad, and I didn't know why back then. I even remember, again, thinking on the outside I looked great and I got into the good sorority. I remember one guy telling me that he got a bad vibe from me, and I was so offended. Like, why is my vibe off? Like, I didn't know any of that. And I think that's what my parents don't understand. Like, they think today like I'm blaming them in the book, and it's not. I mean, I was very gracious with them in the introduction and everything, so that was offensive. It's more like, again, all the chaos was just never recognized. So it's like you just brush it under the rug. And then I went to repeat that in my adult life, and then they shamed and blamed me without once thinking, oh my gosh, she's recreating what she grew up in.
Do you feel that the eating disorder was a cry for help in some level?
Yes,
maybe
100%.
unconsciously?
Yeah, 100%, because it seemed like I went out to California, and again, my dad will blame California on all of his daughter's problems. He thinks it was because I was too far away. I will tell you that I felt like an Alpha Phi sorority at San Diego State, the Northeast, and I was going to high school in Virginia, and I was pretty popular in Virginia. I was not a big deal at San Diego State. These women all had the fake blonde hair and the fake boobs already at 20 or like 18, and they were shopping in the high-end stores. I was still shopping at the mall. So I was very intimidated. I did not feel worthy. I went because Playboy had named it that, like, school with the hottest campus. Like, I wanted a party school, but once I got there, I was like, oh, I'm not hot like these girls. I didn't feel. But I was. I mean, I got into the good sorority. I had friends, and then I sabotaged it all. And when I got anorexic, I alienated myself from them. They would slip eating disorder pamphlets under the door, and they had a speaker come, and I didn't show up because I took it as they were attacking me. They were jealous that I was skinny. And unfortunately, that's not the case. It's just that I think also with women, because of how my sisters treated me and my mother, I didn't trust them. So I didn't,
Yeah, so do you feel like you were recreating some of your family dynamic patterns in your relationships with other people, like even on a subconscious level where, you wanted that acceptance, but when you had it, maybe there was a sabotage in there as well.
Absolutely. I can recall moments where I drank too much. And then, it's really interesting. I remember one instance specifically going to Casey's, and we were allowed to drink wine, but we weren't allowed to drink hard liquor. And I had hard liquor, and her mom got mad. And then her friend Trisha got mad because I kissed her brother, and I just felt like a dirtbag the next morning. So I woke up and I left, but Casey didn't want me to leave. She wanted to talk it out. And to this day, her mother, I got to see her mother a couple of years ago. She was like, I love you, Kelly. You were like the smartest out of all of Casey's friends. Like, we could have talked it out, but I just felt like they didn't want me there. So I left, and it was just really sad. So it was like a disservice to myself.
So one of the things that people, when you've gone through things in life and you've had traumas and I guess negative experiences, is a reliving of those experiences. And sometimes people have like flashback memories, body memories, or just those recurring thoughts. I'm wondering for you what it was like to write this book, and if you were reliving, or were you at a point where you were revisiting?
Yeah, what's interesting actually is when I was writing it, I had come back together with my parents. So I actually took a softer approach. But then once it came out, they were like, you were blaming us. This is all lies and fabrications of us. And it was really hurtful. And so, we're not speaking anymore. My mom just can't take any accountability. She'd be like, I never had 3 bottles of wine. Like, I mean, it's just so stupid. We're not fighting here. Like, it's like my feelings are valid, right? So, yeah, I do feel like, but then I definitely feel like I replayed them in my relationships with men too. So that is why I wanted Cliff, the twin flame, because he treated me like garbage. I had plenty of men that were nice to me and wanted to go on dates, and I thought they were like, it was too much. I didn't even know how to handle that. I wanted Cliff because he ignored me. And then that was the same. And then even with Charles, I knew that he had a drinking problem, and so I wanted to fix him. I always wanted to be the one that could change these guys.
Sometimes people gravitate toward partners that have characteristics of a toxic other person in their life, like a parent that they had issues with. Do you feel that you were dating your mother?
Yeah, I think Cliff and my mother are very
I mean,
similar.
that's a weird thing
right?
to say, but
No, but
know,
you're right. It's
maybe
funny
you
because
were-
as close that I stopped contact with him last year, but prior to that, he even said something about like, I don't know if I insinuated that in you,
Yeah.
and I was like, don't take credit. That was my mother. I have a lot of
Yeah.
negativity in me from my mother that I had to face on my own. These are the shadows. And Charles, my husband, was not the narcissist. Cliff was the narcissist. My husband was an alcoholic, but he was a wonderful man when he was sober. But he
Yeah.
could not face himself. He could
Yeah.
not sit there and admit that he was an alcoholic. Even on his sober days, coming home from work as a lawyer, he could not have the conversation. And I hear him say to me every day in meditation, like, I could never do the work you've done on yourself the past 4 years, like ever. That's it. And I feel bad for him. He was so uncomfortable in his own skin. But that was Charles. So that's the husband. But Cliff was the twin flame. And he was just like my mother in that, like, dominating conversation, ignoring what I had to say, completely invalidating me, but at the same time making me want to prove myself to him. So I write in the book towards the end that once I looked back and realized that he was a narcissist and my mother is a narcissist, because of course my mom never went to therapy. We didn't know what she was. We knew something was wrong, and we thought bipolar, but now I'm learning bipolar and narcissism have a lot to do with each other. But Cliff is definitely a narcissist, and he even admitted that at the end. So every time we would come back together, it was always like, well, we can't fully be together yet, because it was like I had to work on all these things, right? And so honestly, like, that was why I went to New York. Like, that was why I tried to, like, do all these things that I did. It was like trying to earn Cliff's love or prove to my mother.
And I feel like, and this is something that a lot of people gravitate toward, is trying to find the solutions outside of you. Like, if more people can accept me, and if this one could just love me, you know, or my knight in shining armor could come rescue me, then everything is going to be okay. But one of the key points is that, you know, when we have had experiences in life where we've been mistreated by another person, our instinct is to defend ourselves if someone says we're stupid or whatever. No, I'm not stupid. But somewhere along the line, our brain turns that around. It's not a conscious thing. It just happens, and to where I am stupid. And then different things start happening that sort of validate that negative thought. We carry it. On the same token, where you start feeling a separation with other people, you also get the separation between you and yourself, and you and the wounded aspects of yourself. So instead of a lot of people trying to rekindle the relationship with those different wounded aspects, they end up in this sort of eternal conflict with themselves, because there's parts of their story that are frozen in time. Their 15-year-old self is really angry with whatever happened at the scene, but they're also angry with how things were handled maybe by you moving forward, right? So there ends up being where you need to, at the age that you are now, settle with your past self and have that talk.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So as I've been raising my son, I have been reparenting my inner child. So I've been able to meet her in all levels. Now he's almost 10. But it's interesting you talk about the teenage self, because I did a lot of work these past 2 years of going back to places where I was as a teenager. Places where I remember writing, like listening at, he's even 12 years old, listening to Black Hole Sun, like wishing my family would disappear, going back to there, telling that version of me that she was not wrong, that she was right. And it was like, so I don't need to keep proving anymore. It's this like released, right? Because like I've realized that, you know, my mom, I could go into her house and I could either have my head completely chopped off, or I could be like president of the United States, and she wouldn't care. She'd push me aside and be like, I'm trying to ask your father what he wants for dinner. So I've lost that all of a sudden. And it's like, but again, I talk about the shadow aspects too, because it's meeting the parts of myself I don't necessarily love. And when my husband, Charles, would be drunk, he would say that I'm just like my mother. So I had to work on those things. And I actually think that I chose him because I was repeating my pattern in my parents, because he was more of like the emotional avoidant, right? Just like my father. And my father's codependent. My father is my mother's marching man. Like he just comes over and reports back what he's no longer his own self. And I had to learn that and let that relationship go. But yeah, in terms of like the anger for it, no, I'm not angry anymore, because now I have found peace, which is the greatest thing of all now, because I mean, I had the chaos in my childhood and then the chaos.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like 2 points. So the first being that with anger, a lot of times what I find is that under anger is a lot of grief.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people have predominantly grief, and under that's a lot of anger that wasn't expressed. So you have to kind of look at what the anger actually means, which is usually some rule or standard that you have for yourself has been violated. You know, and if that means that you weren't able to speak your truth, or you didn't feel nurtured, or whatever, we have to learn how to mother ourselves, I guess, in your case, because since you didn't really get that in your life, right? Now it's up to you to nurture and mother yourself and learn how to do that. And people can fall into very toxic patterns when they're not in touch with their, we're going to call their feminine aspect. And I'm not talking about the clothes we wear and our hair and makeup and stuff. I'm talking about being in touch with like your own emotion and not being afraid of it. And allowing those feelings to flow through us and to recognize the wisdom of them and not judge ourselves to go, okay, well, if I have this feeling, then I'm weak, or you're a doctor, you shouldn't cry, you know?
Yeah, right.
You know, and it's like, but you're human.
Exactly.
And it's okay. And I think that society at large teaches us, you know, you have this emotion that comes up, and put that aside, kick up your heels, boss up and get to work and go out and let's just push our shoulders back and act like nothing is wrong. Because you know what? You're successful and you're strong, and don't let that get to you. I mean, society teaches us that. So we do learn these patterns from society, but it's also been passed on to maybe our parents from generations of like what they've been through. And you did talk about that in your book too, about how your parents were impacted by their parents and whatever. And I think that allows you to, it doesn't make it okay, but I think when we see people in the context of their life patterns, you go, okay, well, they also went through it. And this is why they are the way they are.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I know. And that's why, you know, in writing the book, when I always sign it and I say the magic is inside of us, that was why I was like, I have to write this as I started, because I didn't know for sure. I'm rewriting the journals and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be a book or not. I'm just doing it. But then all of a sudden I'm like, this is really going to help people, because anyone can do this. It's just in sitting with yourself and being comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah. And one of the things you talk about in the book was about honesty and this sort of secret keeping and putting up fronts that your family had as sort of the culture of the family.
Right.
And I'm wondering, with this book being so honest and so in your face, and just the way that you put it all out there, literally, right? It almost gives me chills. It actually does give me chills with what you did. It's like, wow. Did you have an intention with that to just say to your family, we can't hide anymore, and I'm not going to allow this, and I'm putting it all out there for you guys to now have to deal with it?
And this is a great question. Thank you for asking, because there's a lot of people that are like, but they're your parents. But see, here's what was happening last year as I was writing it, giving them a lot of grace, even saying to my mother, you know, I've learned that we're like this, and this is what I'm doing to work on it, hoping she'll be like, yeah, but all of this is like, we're so glad you're getting help and you're figuring out your problem. Like, they had nothing to do with it. And the lack of accountability would drive me crazy.
Right.
And I would go over to their house, and my mom would expect me to comment on how the furniture has been moved for the millionth time, or on her cooking, or ask me about a friend from New York she hasn't seen in 20 years, but nothing about this, that her daughter's writing a book. And it's not just about them. It goes more into, she never once even asked about like the stuff in the end. So obviously I don't even think that they read it all. So, and I'm not looking to rehash, I've gotten it out, but I mean, what I was looking for, if there was ever a way to move forward with them, it would just to take some accountability, and that's it. And
what I do see in the book is sort of a shifting around of symptoms in the family. So you had, you know, your sister who had her problems, then you had the other sister that had a problem, and then you had your father and your mother. I mean, it's like, and then you came up with a problem. And so a lot of times when there's a symptomatic member and they have an eating disorder or an addiction, or they're acting out, now the focus becomes on that person. But usually that symptomatic member is absorbing other issues from within the family system.
Yes.
And it becomes part of the family dynamic or homeostasis to have a problem, right? So what I did see in the book was sort of this shifting around of the issues. And one of the things is that when you heal, did you notice other people having issues that propped up for them when you got better?
Yeah, so now my sister is the lunatic because she is
Okay.
like, yeah, and she is the one that's different political and religious views than the rest of us. So now,
Yeah.
and then she was the one that went to the mental home. And now, she's having, I think, real problems because, like you said, I know that there's sadness under anger. She hasn't come to terms with that yet. She's just angry, real angry, like scary angry. Like I'm taking shooting lessons because I need to be defending myself angry. So that's
Yeah, and there's
focuses.
no question, the whole is a sum of the parts. In your book, you talk about your individual story, but systemically, when you look at the family system there's a culture of a need to have a problem.
Right.
And if there isn't one problem, it's going to be another problem. And it seems that somebody in that family will either, most likely subconsciously, because nobody really does it on purpose, right?
Right.
But will take on a problem, or there will be a problem for the family.
Right. You're right, because we
Yeah.
can all get along and come together when we're trying to help someone out, one of the members, but like we can't talk when it's just normal. It's like we don't have anything to say. There's no genuine happiness for me like there is with my friends, like never.
Right. So the family sort of orchestrates themselves around problems. So we're going to say problem saturated,
Thriving on chaos, basically, right?
dynamic. And what if that continues to be like that? Because with that kind of dynamic, it's going to take probably some family therapy or some different members of the family to get help for their various symptoms.
I hope so. I've cut them all off, so I'm not speaking to any of
Okay.
them. I started a new family. My son is taking my name, thank God. My daughter,
Okay.
my parents had 3 daughters, and this was something that my father should acknowledge, but he's not. But they had 3 daughters, so the name would end. But my son's taking it, so I have really created a new legacy here for my
Okay.
family, which is amazing. So my family is me and Dylan, and he's going to have children, and that's another part of why I wrote the book, because you'll see where it shifted in the family. And not only am I shifting that I felt I broke the generational curses, but I'm building generational wealth, because I came from this Irish scarcity where my family would make me feel bad for being around jets and yachts, but that was my career. And so now that I'm getting it all back, I've had to redo my life, but I'm getting it all back and I don't feel bad for it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. And I'm building generational wealth for my son now. I'm glad I lost a lot because it really helped me to get out of the materialistic. So now I'm going to be investing, and my son's going to watch me, and he's going to be right behind me.
Yeah, there's a quote, you gain to lose and lose
Yeah.
to gain. So I've heard from a lot of people that have had great wealth. When they lost that wealth, they said, I felt richer and more wealthy after I lost all this. And it's because they gained perspective, going back to the who of who they are.
Yeah.
And when you release a lot of these attachments and you get back to the core, who are you really? I'm not my things, right? And you can get back to your purpose in life and like what is really important to you.
Yeah, and it's been such a blessing because, like, even though things are finally starting to improve, and I'm like, oh, birthday and Christmas for my son. I'm like, what do I want? I don't want anything but experiences. Like, I deserve. I never went to rehab or anything, so retreats and more things like that. I want to put my money into for myself, with my friends, and then with my son. That's really important to me. But then, the other thing I was going to ask you, just having been diagnosed with CPTSD and now having found this, happiness from within, on my day-to-day, I still do occasionally have panic attacks, and I still, get anxiety, but I've learned to calm it down. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I do medical marijuana to calm myself down, and I've really been challenging myself lately to not start the day with it, because I might not need it, and I'm busy. I have a lot going on. I want to be sharp. So I'll just do it like when a panic attack comes on. And then I've really been practicing my deep conscious connected breath work so I can stop vaping and smoking marijuana so much. But to your point, like you said, with the learning how to numb also, like it was like I had a pacifier, I think, until I was like in like something ridiculous, like first grade. So the vape is like my adult pacifier. So it's just, but every day I step more into my power. And I was just going to ask what your advice is to like day to day managing the CPTSD.
Well, the thing is that for the day-to-day, like some of the things that you're doing, you probably should do a neurotransmitter test, to be honest with you, and then see what kind of supplementation you probably need in a natural way to rebalance some of those neurotransmitters, because our neurotransmitters can get thrown off by gut health, nutrition, some of our own just anatomy, physiology, and the way that we work just as a natural. And other things, even marijuana or vaping, a lot of that can throw off some of your natural rhythms. So definitely I would recommend that. But a lot of the things that you're doing, like with the mindfulness and the deep breathing and all, is a wonderful thing because it can help to balance out some of your energies. But at the same time, if you really want to get to the core and to correct why these panic attacks are coming up, you would really need a deep assessment for that to see which memories need to be targeted. And you can't really correct those things with just coping skills. Right, because it's an involuntary thing. When these panic attacks are coming up, they're just coming up out of nowhere. You might have a trigger, or it might be something that is going on that's piling up. It's hard to know with just you sitting here and not going a little further deeper with you as to the timing of them and how you're sleeping at night and some of the other different things, what could be the nature of what is actually at the root causing those particular panic attacks. But I would say some really good like hypnosis would help with that, and also maybe even some core belief systems. I mean, it's probably, when anytime you're getting those type of indicators and you're still doing this and that and you're healing in all different types of ways, it's usually an indicator that there's more healing to do. And, sometimes the healing really isn't finished. Like, there's other things that could come up in life and you go, okay, I'm having this now and I need to work through it. And so what? You work through it. What you don't want to be is you don't want to be in therapy for 30 years for the same issues. And if that is the case, then it's probably, not effective and not the right kind of treatment. But what I like about what you're doing here is just like, you're showing that I guess I'm getting the sense that you are the CEO of your own experience, and you are the author of your story. And your story is even beyond this book, because down the line in 10, 15 years, as you're looking back today, what's that future? What's that story you want to be talking about then as you're looking back in the past?
Right. And that is really why I'm doing the podcast, because, the book is the book. And I've been working a lot on also like going from people pleaser PR girl to a little bit more like of the salesperson who asks more questions and doesn't just vomit my whole past onto new people, because that's another like coping thing, and I listen to your podcast. Thank God I do sleep very well, like 8 to 9 hours a night.
That's good.
But then my mom had panic too, and they prescribed her with Valium when she was 20. So this is and I've tried to overcome a lot of fears this year. I am afraid to fly commercially, and sadly I still have to fly commercial.
Really? You fly all the time.
I know, but it's scary. But that came from I didn't realize I used to drink so much. I would drink all the time before the flight. I would always get there early, have drinks at the bar. Now that I don't do that, I really realize. And then even like sometimes like driving now, and a lot with the moon. I'm a Cancer moon, so it's like that anxiety, that panic. But also I think, again, blowing up the past 2 years, when I say blowing up my life, was a big deal. I let go of a business partner. I let go of my biggest client and had nothing, and went and started to collect my husband's Social Security so I could write the book. And that is a big life shift. For me, I could eat canned tuna for a year and be fine, but I have my son and I didn't want him to any lack. So even as recently as now, it's like, oh my God, Christmas is coming. You need to so everything I've done has been so much. It's a lot. But I feel like I know in 10 years I'm going to look back and just be so so proud of myself how much I did. You know, I could have laid back and collected Social Security or get someone else to take care of me, but I don't. I stopped dating this year because I want to land back on my own 2 feet on my own terms.
What do you hope that people who read this book are going to get from it?
I hope that it gives them permission to live unapologetically and to just really get to know themselves and be honest with themselves and about give them the also the inspiration to look within and not be afraid, I think I see so many people that are afraid to be alone, especially parents that jump to a new relationship, and I see that has a negative influence on the children more than losing a parent, because my son lost a parent. It was tragic, but he was only 4.5. I became the best version of myself, and now he's thriving. They only need one. But if they're going back and forth to houses and there's new parents and there's drama, they're in the middle of that, you know. And I'm very aware of how long it takes to get into a relationship. Like, I'm more interested in forming friendships right now and not spending my time going on dates, because I do still have my son at home and I want to be home. I don't want to be out every single night, and I have to go out for my business too. So again, it was learning how to do all that, even like taking my son ziplining, I'm terrified of, but I did it at the zoo in Melbourne just so we could do it in Costa Rica. And he's my greatest source of inspiration too, because we'll be out doing adventurous stuff and I'm like, for a second I'll be like, I can't do this. He's like, yes you can, Mom, you can do anything, you're a warrior. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay. So it's good. And
I feel like in your book you had this life that at some point had a lot of darkness in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you were surrounded by death, you were surrounded by darkness, and the path that you were on with the alcohol and the drugs and the party lifestyle and the people that were involved in that lifestyle, some of them passed away, some of them died. And then somewhere along the way, you made the transition into the light. What did you learn on that path in the darkness from being in that world?
First of all, it was not anything like I thought it would be. Like, I thought it was glamorous because of the life my dad was living with the expense account and the entertainment, and then even my sister kind of being a groupie for Poison and posing on lingerie, and I thought that was very cool. So I wanted to do it, but as soon as I got into like the dark side with Cliff, like doing cocaine, I've never been more depressed in my life than I was the day after doing drugs like that. It was awful, and I didn't want to be like that forever, but I felt when I was in it like I was doing a social experiment, like learning how these people actually live. Like, okay, they wait tables for a few hours, go out, party, wake up, surf, do it all again. That's not for me. So I don't need this beach lifestyle forever. But I was lucky to get out because you can get addicted to that stuff. So basically what I learned was that it was very empty. And so to come out on the other side, like I said, to first, because even when I stopped doing cocaine with Cliff, I repeated that in New York with Charles. It was just different because now I'm hanging out with lawyers and doctors and finance people. We all go to work the next day. So it felt like, okay, and thank God I stopped doing cocaine in 2015 because fentanyl. But I mean, thank God. But I think, again, and recreating the party, like that was really an escape away from myself. I could never be alone. I always wanted to go out to party. And I'm grateful that now my son has been my anchor, obviously. That's why I stopped drinking. And I wasn't excited about it at first. I thought my life was going to be boring. And there's a lot of parents that drink that don't invite me to things because they think I'll be boring. But I'll tell you, I'm the happiest I've ever been. And even through the past 2 years of not knowing how this is going to end up, not knowing, right? Like, I could have stayed with the bitchy business partner or the clients that were treating me horribly forever, and I never would have been able to find this strength from within me, you know?
What was that aha moment that got you to say, okay, I can't do this anymore and I need help? Because there's a lot of people who have addictions or eating disorders and they get to the point where they know this is not good for me. They're at that point. And they're like, okay, I have to change, or something needs to change, and I'm going to die. But they still don't get help. Can you tell me a little bit about that process for you? Yeah,
well, interesting. I wanted to bring up that because you talked a lot about like how my family was and like symptoms. So I believe that I developed achalasia, which is the symptom. It's over time my esophagus got so swollen that I couldn't even eat. So they had to go in laparoscopically and open it up.
Oh,
and now
wow.
healers have said that they wish that they could redo that because they think it was more like spiritual, maybe like all the secrets in the family or something like that, not being able to speak my truth. But so anyway, that was a big part of why I stopped drinking, because at the end, after Charles passed, I was only drinking beer or White Claw. Like I didn't want wine or vodka. I didn't want to get too messed up because I had my son.
Yeah.
And I obviously wasn't going out much. And I was very aware of the fact that I was drinking, but it was like at home and working and stuff. But it didn't matter. It was COVID, and my happy hour went from 5 to 3 to 1 to 11. It was too early. I was drinking all day, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm gonna have to eventually go back to work, back to the gym, drive my son to school, and I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I usually sleep for like really well, so I didn't like this wake up. And not only that, but my esophagus was like on fire. It was from all that White Claw and the beer, and I was smoking cigarettes and not eating well. And I would look at myself in the mirror and be like puffy, and I'm like dry heaving from the esophagus. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just can't do this. I could die just like Charles. And honestly, 2020 was not a good year for either of us. I was in detox in January. He died in April. Then I got a DUI in November.
Was there any sense when you were escaping with the addiction that you were abandoning yourself? Because you have talked about other people abandoning you in the book. And where I see with the addiction was at that point in time, you were actually abandoning yourself.
100%. And even in New York, when I was striving to become like the PR girl, I was totally abandoning myself because I would drink all night, wake up, rush to get out the door, and I couldn't wait to party. So what am I doing to my body that whole day? So that's why all day I'm stressed because I'm hungover and I'm at my desk like trying to prove and keep my job.
Did you even recognize yourself anymore?
I was like a chicken with my head cut off. I was completely disconnected from mind, body, and soul. And I knew in my core that I like yoga and meditation and all that. And I knew I had to get back to that. I knew. I just didn't know
what
how.
did it take to get back to it? I mean, was it a spiritual thing? Was it like a moment where you just fell to your knees and was like, help me? Was there a certain humility that you needed to dig deep within yourself?
Well, you'll appreciate this because you're a New England girl. We were on Nantucket, my son and I, and there was a 2-hour wait for a table, and I didn't care because I was just going to drink. But I looked at my son and I was like, he was 5. He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to wait for 2 hours while I drink to sit down and have a piece of bread while I continue to drink wine. That's so unfair to him, and that would be repeating the cycle. That's exactly what my parents did to me, and I realized it in that bar at that very second. And a man looked at me, and who knows what he was thinking. I felt like he was judging me. It's New England. It's not like Florida where you should go up to a bar with a kid. Like people were looking at me, and I think I was pretty intoxicated already, and like picking him up because I think that was the day we came on the ferry, so I was just wearing a hoodie. It was not good. And we left, and I decided that night I was going to quit drinking. And I called my friend who worked at Futures Rehab, and just in case I wanted a bed, in case I needed it. And I called my parents, who of course were not that supportive, and then Charles's parents, and they were all supportive. And I decided I was going to detox myself that week, and I knew how to do that from trying to detox Charles. Just cut your consumption in half every day. And so we found this cute little liquor store that had homemade like White Claw. I would buy like 4 of those every day. My son would come with me, and he'd play with their dog, and then we'd just go to the children's beach, and I would have my drinks like in a Stanley. And I'm like, there's got to be something else. Let's make happy hour different. Happy hour can be about Dylan now because I was still working. So 5 o'clock I should go to parks with him and stuff. He doesn't care about meals, and neither do I. Like I can just start going to like Sprouts, or I started doing Daily Harvest for meals. But I thought we would make happy hour happy again. That was my whole thing. And then that was when I found CBD, not THC right away, but I went to a CBD store, and the woman who owns it is now like a best friend of mine, and her son and Dylan are good friends. I said, do you have anything that I could put in my kombucha at night to trick my brain into thinking that it's getting its like nightly treat? And she was like, yeah, I have CBD, non-psychoactive. So I started doing that, and it was fine. And he started football that year. It was August 1st, 2021 that I stopped drinking, and he started kindergarten that August 10th, and he started football. So we were like immediately in a routine. I had to drive him to school, I had to pick him up, and then I had to take him to football practice at night, where I would have my kombuchas. And I didn't know who I was without alcohol, so I would always have my headphones on listening to AA or something, and like not wanting to talk to the other moms. But that was how I did it.
So you being with your career and everything, you're always out and about, and you go to a lot of events. Are you able to stay sober at those events? And what is that like for you?
Yeah, I have. So do medical marijuana, and they make like just these tinctures. So this is what I use if I have anxiety during the day. It's just drops, and I just do like a quarter drop under my tongue during the day. But I try to just stick with CBD during the day. And then this at night is like what I put in my mocktails, and it's just 5 milligrams of THC. So when I go out, I do that, and I feel like I'm getting like my nightly, it calms me down and it helps me just relax. But yeah, so that's what I do. I've never once thought about a drink because I immediately my mind goes to the next morning. I would wake up and not know where I am, and I wouldn't know if my son was okay, and I never want to feel like that again. So thank God. I mean, I was obviously meant to be this way. I believed in soul contracts. I believe that Charles found out he was a father on April 3rd of 2015, and then he died on April 3rd of 2020. So I believe that was a part of his soul contract. Like 5 years you'll be a father, and then you're going to die, but she'll thrive. And he even said something like that to me before. He said, you know, you and Dylan are going to be fine. Please let me go. And when I said he needs a father, he said, not like this. So it was meant to be this way. I never really saw this rise coming, or this actual genuine confidence that I have, but I'm so proud of it, you know, and it's true. This will stick with me forever. It's just the beginning. So
you think that your younger selves would be proud of you today?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I have a picture of 19-year-old me hanging outside of my wall. I always wanted to do right by her. And I'll be honest, 5 years ago, I actually thought right would be bringing Cliff back to her. Like literally last year, I was like, I'm going to go get him, girl. And now I'm like, okay, we're not getting him, but we're going to be great. And I think when I was little, I was always really like, I was always like, interested in the women that could like look pretty and have it all together on their own, and I would never thought that could be me, but like here I am, and it feels so good. I'm actually at the point where I'm like, no, like I have boys that like want to take me out or want to go, and I don't right now.
I did kind of get the sense in the book, and I think that everybody growing up, you know, who's judging other people, anytime you're judging other people, you're coming from this sort of otherness, like they're other than you, right? And in some cases, like when we're judging other people, we're putting them on a pedestal that they probably shouldn't be on. But in this otherness, in this connectedness to separation, right? Just like somebody that you're separated from, but you're connected in almost like a negative way. You think they're better than you. You think they've got it all together, you know, and you talk about like the jocks in the school and the cool kids, and I wanted to be one of them, and they put me down or whatnot. But do they really have it all together? I mean, people are people.
Right.
And you talk about, okay, we had fronts in your family. Maybe they had fronts too. The more you get to know people, like I'm in the field of psychology, and I've worked with so many different people, and it's been a really great thing, because I have come to understand what I always knew deep in my soul, that that people are just human.
Yeah.
And you can wear the clothes, and you can have the money, and you can have all of these things, and you can be cool, but you can also be a hurting person under that, and you can be sad, and you could be angry, and you could be frustrated, or you could be happy, and you can have your happy moments, but nobody is happy all the time.
Right.
Happiness is like a fleeting thing. I think that what we should really be aiming for is contentment and balance.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. So there is nobody that's better than you.
Yeah, no, I realized that I did a lot of projecting. But also I've learned that we can also project onto people what we would do in their situation. And not everyone has a heart, right? And so that's why there would be a lot of disappointment. And I don't do that now. But I do try to find joy from within. And again, that's like the past couple of years, and like learning to take more time for me. And again, the peace is the best thing, honestly, that has ever happened to me. I've never had this peace in my whole life, like I said, because I created the chaos. So that's why I like being alone now. I crave it. I need it. I need my time to recharge. And I have a lot going on with work now. Reinventing yourself comes with a lot. Like I tried a lot of different avenues. I just don't have the time.
I feel like you've reinvented yourself so many times, though, that this is what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And I think it's just to show that you
But
can
maybe
just
that's
going.
just all part of our own evolution also, because as you look back in all your different, you know, past versions of yourself, and your wounded selves and your younger selves, they were just versions of you.
Yeah.
Right? It's all just part of your timeline, and who knows what the next versions will be of you.
Right. We might
Like,
not even be halftime yet. So
you might be wearing a fleece, like, who knows, right? It doesn't, living in the mountains or something like that,
Yeah, we
there's
don't
different
know.
versions of us, and it's okay because I think it's all part of our life.
Yeah, and I will say that I'm really excited for the first time in a long time too, because like with those projections, I had all these unrealistic expectations, and I've learned just to go with the flow more. And I think that, at 38, when I was separating from my husband, I really did think that my life was over. And I had women telling me that it was just starting, and I didn't really understand that until now. And so it is such a blessing. This is the part where you get to be like, oh yeah, this is why I blew it up, because I get to like live this life. Like I'm free. I'm completely free. Live my life on my own terms.
And you've pretty much come to this in recent years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like this healing and stuff. Did you ever think, God, why did it take me so long?
No, I knew, because if you look,
Yeah.
like 19, separated from the husband, 20, he died, 21, I stopped drinking, 22, I stopped smoking, 23, I kind of closed my business. And so then then I wrote the book in 24, and now here we are, like with the podcast. So it's like been one thing after another.
Do you wish you would have reached healing sooner in life? Like, or do you look back and go, okay, no, I had to go through all of those different experiences. So there's a certain acceptance of the past.
Yeah.
And is there a forgiveness?
Yeah, 100% of me. And also like I gave myself so much grace, and there's no more shame anymore.
Yeah.
And I realized I had to go through all that to become who I am today, because like I said, if you didn't go through all that, you're an NPC. And look, I have a lot of respect for people who have just been sitting in an office for the past 20 years, but I would have killed myself. I mean, they have a constant paycheck, but like, again, there's just, to me, I'm anxious thinking of how much of the world I haven't discovered yet. Like I love like traveling that much, and like, so being able to find a way to do that and involve my son has been really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not for the weak. Like I said, doing this has been the hardest thing of my life.
Well, one of the themes that you brought up in the book is freedom.
Yeah.
And I feel like you were always doing all of these things in trying to capture that for yourself and escape into freedom, but never really had it because you were going after all the wrong things. And from what I'm hearing from you now, you're in a place where you feel this sense of freedom more from the inside.
Right.
And it's not so much about seeking it out there, but yeah, you are traveling and you are doing things that are more in alignment with how you're feeling internally. Does it feel different?
Yeah, it does. It feels good. It's 2 years now that I really don't have to answer to anyone. And, my mother is no longer in my life, so I don't get those annoying texts every morning, like, what's going on? What are you doing? 5 question marks. I don't owe anything to anyone. It's fabulous. My son and I are going to Costa Rica for Thanksgiving. We're not even going to celebrate it anymore because we don't even like turkey. And our birthdays are like right on Thanksgiving. 11, 26, and 27, and then who knows what for the holidays. So it's exciting. I'm starting completely fresh, and it's like really, really exciting. And like I said, my son and I have a really good bond, and that's been everything to me. So, but we're starting a new chapter too. He's going to be 10. He has a lot of friends.
And what does he make of your podcast and book?
He loves it. He's happy for me, and he is really proud. I read a book called What a Son Needs from His Mother, and it talks about sons will always worry that their moms are lonely and depressed. So I've had to explain to him that, I'm working a lot on my personal brand, and I'm doing other things with my business, that I'm never really bored at home. It's actually been really good that he has friends, because I can work on all this. It's a lot to build a personal brand. So it's been good. And then in my free time, I have used that to go out and network, or to go out and connect with friends, because that's really important. It's like I've planted my roots, and now I want to make the trunk strong.
I'm really curious about the boys club. Versus the girls club, and I did see that like kind of as a theme in the book, and maybe even now. I was a bit curious about it because growing up, it seemed that you lived in a neighborhood with boys mostly, and if I recall, somewhere earlier on in the book, you talked about some physical abuse that went on with some of the boys in the neighborhood, and then like as we go on a little further. There was mistreatment with women and your sisters and whatnot. It seemed like it was more psychological and emotional with the women.
Yeah, it felt like my dad had a ticket out of the crazy house by the expense account and being important. So I immediately wanted to have a job that paid a lot and gave me an expense account so I could travel and party immediately and get out of, and then, yeah, so women to me were always drama. And when I was with the guys, it was just fun. And I'm also very adventurous. So I would like to do the stuff with the guys. But that's where the bullying started to come in. Like in high school, they would, you know, just assume that I was like sleeping with all of them. Like I'm sleeping with all 10 of them. Like, once in a while, I would end up dating one of them, but like never at the same time. But it was always just more mellow for me, more laid back. And but I'm learning today too, like you said, to be in touch with your masculine and feminine. I love, like, I joke that I want to be the female Wolf of Wall Street, but I'm kidding. I don't actually want to like sleep with that many guys or anything like that. But it's just like not being told what to do. I've always wanted to do everything the boys can do. And that little brat Paul, when he like, ever since then I was like, ooh, you don't get to just do that. And like, so when I left Boston, I like had my mover take off my training wheels. I wanted to show the boys that I could ride without a training wheels too. I mean, I was only 5, but then it's always been like that. And I always wanted to do everything the boys can do. I love to golf. I love to shoot, but it's also, it's not that I feel more comfortable within them. It's, I think it's also trying to prove, like, it's not easy to be in sales with private jets. That's a boys club. And I don't, sometimes I feel like I'm not getting the treatment the guys get. So you have to prove yourself, and it shouldn't be that way. So I think part of my purpose is paving the way for the future women to be able to do things like that too.
That's cool.
And with Cliff, that was also what I liked about him. I know we have to wrap it up, but with Cliff, that was what I liked about him. I was like, who does he think he is? Like, why can't I just have all this, like, all these people just bow down to me? I was like, I wanted to be like him. I think that was like, and he even said that. So, so I think that's part of it, but I am realizing like the feminine connection is important. And I think now that I've done the work on myself and I'm willing to be vulnerable and talk about the shit, then I have started to, you know, gain more female connections, which is good. So but I'm excited because I know that, you know, you have, you just started the Renew Me, and that's also a group of us, so we're going to be doing more together. And then your Renew Me is an app, so people can look for that soon in hotels,
so there's tech with Renew Me that we're doing tablets for hotels that have mindfulness and all of that, and then we're coming out with technology in an iOS and mobile with corporate brands to reach their customers for wellness, you know, so there's some pretty exciting things happening, but technology is sort of like a different branch of my specialty that I've had to develop, and it's been interesting to be an entrepreneur in that area. It was something totally new, something I didn't go to school for and had to learn from the ground up with that. So that's had its own you know, interesting journey with that, and you know, life's interesting. It's always
a journey.
It's always a journey. It's always things, and you know, I have the Renew Me Circle group, which is pretty awesome. Now I decided to put that together and have some women part of it and keep growing that out so that we can have a think tank and connect with each other and have a place to, you know, share ideas and self-growth and learn about different things, including finance and different things that we can really help, you know, each other. And, you know, because there's a lot of groups that are just, you know, these women in heels running around, taking pictures and whatnot, and that's fine. But I know that for me, I'm so much more than that. You're so much more than that. And the women in the group are really truly entrepreneurs, and I love that, you know, and we apply ourselves and we have depth. They're the kind of women that you can really sit with and talk to and have some really deep conversations, and every single one of them has an amazing, interesting story to share that we can all learn from, and I just love that. So I truly have respect for everybody and I'm so selective about who comes in, you know, because I really wanted to create that you know, that specialness. So we're doing it.
Awesome.
We're doing it. Yeah.
Excited. And so where can people find you? Renew Me.
Everywhere.
I read something that said, I will be everywhere you look, but nowhere to be found.
How do we find anyone now? Online, right?
Yeah.
So www.therenewcenter.com, but always Instagram, Dr. Lisa Palmer and Myri knew me.
Okay.
Right, that's where we can find me.
Thank you, girl.
Thank you
This was
so much
fun.
for having me on the show.
Awesome. Thank you.